I'm the nun, Sister Nancy Usselman.
I'm the professor, Dr. Cutter Calloway.
I'm the TV writer, Dean Batali. I have neither professor nor sister in front of my name. It's just TV writer.
It's time for Should Christians Watch? A nun, a professor, and a TV writer discuss television from a Christian perspective. Today's discussion, Tiger King. John Krasinski's Some Good News, and then 3 recommendations. So let's ask the question.
Should Christians watch?
If you're anything like me, and you immediately binge watch everything Netflix suggests for you, then you already know about Tiger King, an outrageous 7-part docuseries about an exotic animal breeder in Oklahoma, appropriately named Joe Exotic.
Army of people working for free.
She's a plain out hypocrite. She literally does everything that I do.
So Joe says, will you go to Florida and what?
Kill that lady.
What a story. And it got way bigger.
It's a hot mess. Really. It's really weird.
Look, I watched every minute of the show. I actually watched one episode twice. And it's entertaining from start to finish. Took me into a world that I didn't know, that I'd never seen before. Showed me characters I had never seen. It was probably one of the best told reality stories I've ever seen.
I think the most interesting thing about it is that it is extreme exhibition of human frailty, really desperately in need of redemption.
I just read a review, weirdly enough, I think it was April 7th, in either Variety or Deadline, that described this as red state porn. It basically is looking at human depravity and human brokenness. And what's odd is that I went back and watched the second to last episode and the final episode with this different point of view. And it's not that I felt dirty watching it. I mean, it gets into the larger issue of reality television to begin with as a sort of escapist emotional porn that we're watching other people's failures. But I actually, when I got to the end of it, started having a different sense of compassion. I'm not trying to say I'm this nothing but a compassionate, empathetic TV viewer, because those things do not come naturally to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a classic cautionary tale. We see the end results of someone who literally gains the whole world and loses his soul, right? Like that final scene where he's talking about the chimps that he had in 2 separate cages, and then when they're released, they hug, and he says, Did I do that? And he basically confesses, yeah, but I thought I was doing something good, and I got caught up, I got blinded, I was lost in sort of who I became, which really is a sort of classic tale of if you follow this to its logical end, here are the consequences you're going to face.
So these are really the lost and the broken, the kind of people Jesus used to pursue.
Exactly. Yep.
And is the church pursuing them in today's world? No. This guy is going down to the bus station in Oklahoma and finding the broken people and bringing them in and welcoming them in and giving them a home and food and saying, take care of the animals with me. Now, there's a lot more going on, but that's as much of a cautionary tale, it's also a challenge to why isn't the church pursuing these kind of people?
Pope Francis talks about us going out to the peripheries, going out to those who are on the edge. And these are the kind of people that are on the edge. And yes, in one sense, you feel extreme compassion for them who are searching and who are lost in many ways.
I think we're giving this show way too much credit for what it is. Because first of all, I didn't feel compassion when I was watching it till I forced myself to feel compassion. The filmmakers are doing it as freak show. So I'm going, well, okay, yes, if we can turn people's watching this toward the compassionate, okay, what should we then do? Are people going to watch this show and actually go out and be more empathetic and compassionate and love people more? That's why I just don't know. Having watched it, I don't really know the value of having watched it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dean. We're talking about should Christians watch. I think all 3 of us, none of us would say, what should Christians watch? But I am of the impression, and sort of the stuff I do in teaching and writing, is how should Christians watch? And so my impulse is to say, okay, now having watched Tiger King, how ought a Christian to respond? What does the gospel call us to? But I think you're right. The filmmakers are doing something different. And we wouldn't want to say just on its own, this film is a call to empathy. But I do think as Christians, we can engage it empathetically, just as you described at the end.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SGN. I am John Krasinski, and now let's get straight to the notes.
Yes, some good news. I think we all need this some good news from John Krasinski. I think he started this because of being in quarantine, and I just needed something to do. But actually, he's really telling really great stories, but also I think, he's bringing out the goodness of humanity in his stories. So I think, he's asking for some good news, hashtag from his Twitter followers, and they're all sending it in. And actually, I sent in a story that aired on episode 2.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, I did.
Wait, which one?
And in South Dakota, a 12-year-old girl was having trouble with her math homework. So what did her all-star teacher do? He just drove over to her house with a whiteboard and started teaching her right through the window.
So the story of the young girl who had trouble with her math homework, and so the teacher went outside the window with a big whiteboard and started showing her how to do it. Yeah,
Look at Sister
I
Nancy
that
mixing it up in the culture. Good for you.
I love that story, but I don't like it as an educator because it puts a lot of pressure on me. Now I need to go to every one of my students and hold up whiteboards. Okay? Thanks a lot, Nancy.
Well, the other thing about this show, I think, is that it's done from his home. And there he is. He's dressed in a suit and tie, and then he gets up and he's in his pajama pants. And I love it because Emily Blunt, his wife, just pops in and on the screen, everyone, as well as other celebrities show up. And he's just telling some stories that really don't get attention normally. And it's stories of human beings being kind and noble and self-sacrificing. It's kind of the total opposite of Tiger King.
He could have just as easily called his show Demonstrating the Fruit of the Spirit, because all of those things are in the different stories that he does. It's interesting, too, we talk a lot about what is TV and what's on TV. He did this show for YouTube, so it's free to everybody. In the first week, the first episode had something like 14 million views, which would place it as one of the top 3 sitcoms on TV right now. The second episode, I think, it got just as many, almost as quickly. So it's an interesting kind of new invention of what TV is. It's just somebody, now it's a celebrity, yes, but it's just somebody with a camera in their house talking.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's an embodiment of the good news, right? In a society where it's basically a constant barrage of bad news, right? And loss and disparity and injustice. And at that point, it's like water in the desert, right? When you have these stories of hope and kindness.
Well, I think that comes out. I mean, John is a known Catholic and a practicing Catholic. And I think it comes out a lot in his shows. They're very sacramental, especially A Quiet Place. I could write a whole, several articles just on talking about the sacramentality present in that. So I think it comes out from his own faith and lived experience. Well, I recommend the CBS sitcom Bob Hart's Abishola. This Chuck Lorre show is smart and clever comedy, kind of in the vein of Everybody Loves Raymond and King of Queens.
You had 3 stents put in.
Is that a lot?
For a man your size, no.
Bob is a Caucasian businessman who has a heart attack and goes to the hospital and meets a Nigerian nurse who happens to be a very Christian woman, very faith-filled person. That's just part of who she is.
I thought maybe you'd like to join us at church.
Oh, yeah. That's on Sunday, too.
He tries to get her to date him. It's so intriguing, but also it's so relatable. Well, not that the dating part is relatable. I'm a nun. I don't date. But, I mean, not too much makes me laugh. But this show made me laugh. I recommend Bob Hart's Abishola on CBS, Monday nights at 8:30.
Cutter's recommendation is Parks and Rec, which you can go back to the archives on Netflix and look for. The entire series is available, and it stars Amy Poehler and a bunch of other great, well-known actors and actresses. I think it's a great show, not only because it, like Some Good News, is incredibly sincere in a time when many shows and many people are cynical, but it also is this great sort of melting pot of different personalities who all are working in local government. and they have radically different views, radically different philosophies and experiences with life, and yet they're thrust into this environment where they have to share a common goal, and through kindness and through friendship and relationship, they're able to have and develop as really a family unit over time. And so for me, especially if you're in a situation where you're trying to relate to others in maybe a close proximity right now, this would be a great show to go check out. You can see the whole thing on Netflix.
So I'm really interested in finding shows that portray Christian characters positively. And one show that I really recommend that you watch is called Unbelievable. It was a miniseries released on Netflix in September of 2019.
I know this is hard, but I need to ask you some questions about what happened.
He tied my hands. He said if I screamed, he'd kill me.
It's about a teenager who is sexually assaulted, but nobody believes her until a detective sort of finds out, connects her case to another case. I'll give a warning about the first episode. It's not graphic, but it's kind of uncomfortable. The subject matter is tough. It's tough to get through. The first episode is the toughest episode, and then from there, it starts to get a lot more bright, a lot more hopeful. The revelation that this one character is a Christian happens, I believe, in the second episode, and it's so great because you just meet her, and she's demonstrating things like kindness and goodness and gentleness, and she's so sensitive, and then there's this beautiful reveal that I won't give away of how you find out she's a Christian. And what's great about it is she carries her faith into her workplace. She has a non-Christian friend. They tease each other. They love each other. They have fun with each other. It's just a really wonderful, nuanced, and rich portrayal of a Christian that I would love to see more of. When Christians say, how come there aren't positive portrayals of Christians on television? There are. We'll talk about more of them on this show. But Unbelievable is something I can't recommend enough. And hopefully in the future, we'll talk about all three of these shows that we've recommended and get a little more deeper into them, talk about why we think they're valuable for Christians to watch and to talk about.
This is something they carry with them forever.
Join us next time for more
Should Christians watch?